Leafs is getting good, and there was a decision made by Boston head coach Jim Montgomery that I want to get your take on. Game 2. He made the decision to rotate his goalies, as he's done for most of the last 2 months. Linus Ullmark got the start. Montgomery says there's no second guesses. Ullmark was terrific, but Toronto scored 3, including Austin Matthews getting off his schneid with what proved to be the game winner in the third. Maple Leafs 3, Bruins 2. What you buying, what you selling from that Game 2, Clint Yates?
I'm buying the goalie system. It just didn't happen to work out in this particular scenario. As you mentioned, they've been doing this the whole time, and Ullmark was not the problem. The power plays was the issue for the Bruins. He was arguably one of the better players on the ice for the Bees. They just couldn't come up with it. I'm fine with sticking with your system.
Harry Lyles Jr.?
Yeah, Tony, I'd buy that this was an issue if it's something that they haven't been doing the past couple of months, but they have been doing it the past couple of months, and these are two really good players. Both of them have at least 22 wins and a goal against average of at least 2.5. So they're both effective. They've both been good. It's one game. If the series goes differently, then we're having another conversation.
Drew, what you buy, what you sell from going from Swayman to Ullmark in Game 2?
Well, I'm buying that this game was not Ullmark's fault. They got themselves into the penalty box there and gave up the game-tying goal. Then you had Mr. 69 getting the breakaway with the winning goal. But if you look at this rotation, it's classic overthinking by Boston. Last year, they had questions on the rotation. They didn't do so. They didn't bring in Ullmark until Game 7 after more than 2 weeks of just sitting, and they lost Game 7 to the Panthers. And this year, they're going to say, okay, we're going to keep the rotation. No, you get to the playoffs, you stick with one guy until he loses.
Wait, you're trying to have it both ways then. You're saying last year didn't work, and then this year didn't work. Okay, all right, I'll unmute you. Please expound.
What I'm saying is, yes, they could have gone the same path as last year, and it's probably going to work better if your team is better. You lost to an 8 seed last year in the Florida Panthers. Stick with the plan. Don't go with the rotation. It's kind of silly.
I'm not sure you convinced me there. Pablo Torre, how about you?
Can I take the simplest answer on the board, which is Swayman was 4-0 against the Leafs this season. He had a 96% save percentage. He was 1.25 goals against. So to me, I would rather have that guy. I'm going to have the guy who's really good against the team you're playing for the whole time. Not part-time, the whole time. And the fact they didn't do that feels like you overthought yourself into a system that didn't actually make a ton of sense based on the opponent.
We'll move on. Buy or sell 2. Jackson Holliday, super prospect for the Baltimore Orioles. Since he has been called up, anybody know what he is? One
for everything.
1 for everything is correct.
Totally.
1 for 30. I heard that from Gutierrez is correct as well. So the super prospect with a brutal start. Clinton, was he called up too soon or too late? Because he was raking in the spring and not called up. And should he go back down or work through?
I think Izzy's point about overthinking it is one that happened here. If you know you've got a kid that you think is going to eventually make your big league roster, calling him up, in my opinion, is the right decision, especially if you think he needs more at-bats. He got sent back down because he was 200 points worse against lefties. They didn't think he could do it. He went out a ton of times, so they end up having to call him back, and now it feels like his confidence is shot. Jordan Walker for the Cardinals last year was in a similar situation, but he made the opening day roster, and he ended up making it back. I think the O's should just keep the kid on the big league squad. That's the easiest way to handle this.
Harry Lyles Jr.?
Tony, I'm buying that they completely fumbled this. Either he needs to be on the opening day roster or you call him up 2 or 3 months into the season, because now we're at a point where not is he only 1 in 30 in his at-bats, he has 16 strikeouts. Like, this is a case of you're messing with his mental, his psychology at this point. And in baseball and hitting the ball, that is one of the most mental things you can do in sports. And when you're in a slump like this, now they're in a place where they need to go ask him, hey, what do you need from us in order to help you continue here and try to break out of this and succeed? Because you know it's there, and it hasn't been so far.
Gutierrez?
Well, this should be a great fit for him, a young player with a young, talented roster around him where they can sort of fit him in the 9th spot, let him get used to the big leagues, and then go on from there. But you have to look for signs to say maybe he's a little overwhelmed. And he had an at-bat a couple of days ago, bases loaded, full count, 1 out, and he just watched strike 3 straight down the middle. And it just kind of makes you wonder, hey, maybe he is, as Clinton mentioned, overthinking things at the plate. I don't know if it becomes too much for him, and you might want to send him down, regain his confidence, and bring him back. But it feels like this club would be a club where he can sort of just ride this out and stay with the big leagues.
Yeah, I would keep him up. I think everything you're saying about the concern for his confidence is fair. But the reality is the O's are 7-3 in their last 10, while the best prospect in baseball has been struggling. The best prospect in baseball is still, last I checked, not somebody we think that much less of because of the slump. It feels like a guy who's adjusting to the surface of, Major League baseball, right? He has the bends, Tony. He came up real quick. I get it. It's hard to adjust. But it's a long season. Pulling the plug on him feels like a dramatic overreaction.
My baby's got the bends. I don't know if that's exactly what you want to say he has. It hasn't worked out so well for some. The bends hasn't worked out so well for Pablo Torre.
Scuba divers, it's hard.
We do know there have been those who started careers like 1 for 30 and turned out okay. Isn't that correct? We've had a history of guys. Willie Mays is
162
one
games.
have thought of.
That would be me on this show, Tone, as well.
Is that right? Yeah, you started out 1 for 30? Clint Yates, Pablo Torre, my baby's got the bends. Harry Lyles Jr., Israel Gutierrez. That's our showdown next. Well, the Hurricanes came back.